Hey, this is Braden with Pickleball Effect. Today we're doing a little experiment on how lead tape affects the twist weight number of a paddle. One of the more common reasons people add lead tape to a paddle is to increase the stability and forgiveness of the paddle, which is what the twist weight measures. If you're not familiar with what twist weight is, it's a measurement of the resistance of a paddle to twisting on off-center shots. If you catch a ball on the edge of the paddle, it's going to twist a little bit. If a paddle has a higher twist weight, it's going to be more stable, it's not going to turn as easy, and it's an indication of how forgiving a paddle is. So for this experiment, I'm going to place lead tape on the bottom corner, the sides, and on the top corners and see how this affects the twist weight measurement. To give us an idea of the best location to put lead tape to get the best twist weight number we can, and just to see how much it changes the twist weight overall. I'm also going to do this experiment with two different paddles. So I have a 16mm paddle here and a 14mm paddle here. This is the exact same paddle. This is the Carbon 3X, just two different thicknesses. I was curious if the lead tape would adjust the twist weight number more for a thinner or a thicker core. To measure twist weight, I'm using this machine. This is the Graffiti SW1. It has this twist weight adapter. So I've already gathered the static twist weights of the 16mm and the 14mm. The 16mm is coming in at 6.71, while the 14mm is coming in at 6.39. So we'll get the different measurements for the 16mm first, and then we'll take a look at the 14 and compare these numbers. So the first spot I'm going to put them on is in the bottom two corners. I'm going to add a total of 10 grams. This is 5 inches of lead tape on each side of tape that has 1 gram per inch. So here we go. We'll start with the bottom two corners and get the measurement. So that bumped it up to 7.41, while the static twist weight was 6.71. So now let's move the tape to the sides. That gave us 7.71, so that was more than the bottom two corners. All right, let's move these to the top two corners now. So that gave us 7.42. All right, let's do the same thing, but for the 14mm now. So that made it 7.06. Okay, let's move this to the sides. So 7.39. That's up from 7.06. All right, let's do the top two corners. So that's 7.05. And then the last thing I want to look at was adding a bunch of weight. So I'm going to add 20 grams instead of 10 grams here and see if that makes a difference. And I'll just do one location. I'll just do the bottom two corners and see what measurements we get there. So I gave us 7.68. All right, let's do the same thing to the 16mm. Gives 8.07. All right, let's look at these numbers a little closer. So I had a spreadsheet that I pre-built to give us like the percentage increases on these. So when we put the 10 grams on the bottom corner for the 16mm, we had a 10.43% increase. On the 14mm, we had a 10.49% increase, so nearly identical. And then when we look at the weight on the sides, on the 16mm, we had a 14.9% increase. And on the 14mm, we had a 15.6% increase. So we had a noticeable difference in the 14mm by going on the sides. There's also nearly a 4 to 5 point jump going from the bottom corners to the sides. And then looking at the 10 grams on the top two corners, we had a 10.5% increase for the 16mm and a 10.3% increase on the 14. So that's really close to the same amount that we had from the bottom two corners. So you get the highest increase on twist weight when you add it to the sides. Top and bottom looks like it doesn't really make a difference. And then when we look at doubling the weight from 10 grams to 20 grams, on the bottom corner, that gave us a 20% increase in twist weight for both the 14mm and the 16mm. So the first 10 grams for the 16mm gave us a 10.4% increase, and then the second 10 grams only gave us a 9.8. So there is diminishing returns the more weight you add. Looks like the first 10 grams you add is going to make the biggest difference. Any weight you make after that still helps, but doesn't look like it's quite as much. I think the main conclusion is adding lead tape does make a big difference. 10 grams really isn't a ton of weight. This is like 0.35 ounces. So if you have an 8-ounce paddle, this is going to make it 8.35 ounces. But you can increase the twist weight by a pretty good margin, almost by a full point, just by adding 10 grams. So I think it's worth it if you're looking for stability to add lead tape. If you're looking for the maximum amount of stability through the tape, the sides is the best, and then the corners is the exact same. When I did the same experiment with swing weight, the bottom 2 corners gave us the least increase in swing weight. So I think adding the lead tape to the bottom 2 corners, maybe up the side a little bit, is going to give you the best return for twist weight without increasing the swing weight too much. So there you go. That's my experiment. Thanks for watching, and I hope it helped.